I took discipline to do that, but I started watching how I was spending my money. I started keeping a log and following myself.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another week of live market scan. And as always, what we try to do in these sessions is simply to create a forecast of the week ahead, or for the remainder of the week, really, right? So we pretty much take a look at where we were at the start of the week, or for these sessions in comparison to last Wednesday, and we try to see where we are now, see the plays that have developed in the market since then, and we try to determine the next possible outcome for the remainder of the week, right? And as always, we focus mainly on the major crosses. So that's most of the Euro USD pairs. So we look at Euro USD, Pound USD, USD CAD, the dollar yen, dollar Swiss, the Kiwi dollar, the Aussie dollar, and we look at gold. And then we generally take a look at any other pair that you guys want me to take a look at, right? So we start things off with Euro USD. And the last session we had last Wednesday, we were here in the market at the time we did the session. We were down in support at 10.04, right? And we were saying that we're looking for the market in itself overall to give some sort of retest of the neckline that we found on the daily time frame, right? So we're looking for the market to come up into the overall neckline of the daily time frame, and then from there we would be looking at a push back down into key support at around 1.0914, right? So based on where we are now in the market, we did in fact get price to hit directly in the neckline, right? It took a little longer than anticipated, took a full week for price to get up there, right? So we're looking at the market to approach the neckline, and we're saying that the first area that you want to be looking at is this overall level, and this would have been the anchor to your 4-hour downtrend, right? So that's why we were looking at that overall anchor, and then from the market approaches this area, you would try to assess and to pick up your trade back to the downside, right? So since we're here and the market literally took a full week from last Wednesday to this week to hit that overall area, then what we'll simply be looking at now is for the market to finish off its course and to head to the downside. So this is the play that we'll be looking at now for Euro USD. The most we may find is that the market may give you, if it still wants to push a bit higher, then the area that you want to be looking at is the 1.1116 or 1115, in and around that area, right? So you want to be assessing the market as it approach that level, but overall Euro USD is bearish. And we've identified that out of the daily by saying that once you're in the market and you see an impulse followed by a correction and another impulse to the downside, or what you call an M pattern out of the market, the general characteristic is for the market to come back in and test the neckline, right? So that's why this was a pretty simple trade for us, and that's to assess the market to head into this overall zone. Now, Ramon, we're pretty much just starting, right? So that's Euro USD, and like I said, all we're looking at now is just simply for the market to head back down. So this will be the target for the remainder of this week heading into next week, and this is the overall target for Euro USD. For pound USD, again, we were looking for the market to do what? Simply give you some retracement back to the upside and then for continuation down. If we look to the 4-hour, as we suggested in the session last week, and again, I remember posting this trade in the academy as well, to say that I would be looking for the market to approach this overall area, and I'll just simply highlight it there for you guys to see it. So this is where we were last week. We're saying that we want to see price action in and around this area, and then from here we can look for the market to head down, citing continued strength out of the dollar, right? So that's pretty much all we're simply looking at. So based on where we are now, your level to be looking at is let me highlight this here just to pick up the price. We're now at 29.31, right? $1.29.30. That's the area that we're looking at. What you want to see ideally is a fail close beneath this area based on where we are now in the market, and then for continuation down. Because like we were saying, the price in itself out of pound USD is simply bearish. The market is simply overextended, and for the past month, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, we're heading into the 5th week of pure sideways movement out of the market. So all we're simply looking at now is for continuation to the downside, and we are in the area now where we should be expecting that bearish movement out of the market. Ideal area that we'll be looking at would be 1.265, or even to push it down to 1.26. So that's overall what we'll be looking for out of pound USD. Your first target point, should you be looking to take this trade based on your overall assessment and your trading strategy and your rules for entry, this is your first target point that you want to be looking at, right? And that's 28.50 is your first target point. Ideally, the market should give you some sort of pause as it approaches this area, and what you want to be looking at this stage is a slight retracement back into this area, into your trend line, and you see if you can pick that up properly when you're assessing your own chart, just to see slight hold up in price as we get around this area. But we should be good to the downside out of pound USD, right? So the overall movement is bearish again for pound USD. All in all, we're expecting strength out of the dollar. What we're looking at again from the USD CAD, and this played out superbly based on where we were to where we are last Wednesday to where we are. I was saying that what we wanted to see price to approach this overall area, and I'll probably have to start coloring these white and make them a little bit bigger so that you guys can see the target levels as we put them in moving forward, right? So I'll just start coloring them white so they're very evident. So this is what we're looking at for the market to approach in this overall area of $32, and then from there we're looking for any signal for the market to send to continue to the upside. And again, we got the strength that we needed out of it. I guess the oil prices yesterday, the lowering of the oil prices yesterday pretty much helped to weaken the Canadian dollar and pushed it to pretty much complete the overall target point that we're looking at. Right, so this one is pretty good. What you'd be looking at now that this entire move has been completed, what's the next outcome for USD CAD? And it's simply based on where we are now. I can pretty much erase this, and what you want to be looking for is some slight retracement out of this back to into this area, but we should still be looking for continued strength out of the market. Right, and your target point now, as we are approaching, we are in a key level in terms of resistance on the market coming in from the weekly time frame. We're in a double bottom pattern here, so we could possibly see some stronger retracement coming out of the market for dollar CAD. And the area that would probably want to be looking at for that retracement, first area would ideally, based on the fib levels, would be around your 38 point. However, personally, I don't see the market coming back here with the strength that we're expecting out of the dollar. So ideally, what I would probably want to be seeing, and I'll be aiming for this level here, previous high at $1.35, might give us some time to get up there. We might be getting some sideways movements out of the market for a while on USD CAD. Unless we see continued weakness out of the CAD, then we could see the market continue to the upside out of these areas and then push higher, right? But the overall expectancy from this pair is to expect some sideways movement for a while, right? So CAD, USD CAD, I think for now we'll leave it where it is. Ideally, to see the retracement back into this area and then for continued movement to the upside. Well, let's see. By the time we do the next session, it will be a full week from today. So I guess we'll still leave the target point in there and we'll simply assess as we go along. All right. So that's the overall target point for USD CAD. USD JPY, dollar yen. And this one, now we saw strength coming out of the yen, but with the strength also that we experienced from the dollar, pretty much kept this pair standstill. In essence, since we were here, we pushed up by 26 pips and down to a max of about 50. This is about 60 pip. So in an entire week, we have pretty much ended up right back where we started. Down, in fact, we're here and now we're still down in support. So we're down about 32 pips since we did this overall assessment. All right. So the bias towards this is still to the upside. Right. So what you want to be looking for now is just any bullish signal coming out of the market to send this trade to the upside. We're likely to see continued strength coming out of the yen as we finish off this week. So what I'd be expecting out of this market, if we were to get any move to the downside, the forex would be looking for this market to go is possibly just to tag back the previous lows from the week. So we might get the market to push down into this area and then simply continuation to the upside. So we're still holding the target point for USD JPY to be about 109.81. So that's the overall target point for that. Your level to be looking out for is the same level where we were last week, and that's 108.78 or 108.80. A break and a close above that level is a strong indication that the market wants to get back to the upside. All right, so that's ideally what you want to be looking out for out of the dollar yen. All right, so the next thing that we have that we'll be looking at is USD Swiss. And we saw some good movements out of this pair, even as early as today, as recent as this afternoon, is where we really got the movements coming out of most of the Swiss pairs, them, to be frank. Right, this is where we were last Wednesday, and for the entire week, we pretty much went up. Today is the 20th. We pretty much got up to a max at about 25 pip, down about the same as well, 25. Right, and then today we got them pushed up, and we're back right where we started, right back in that overall range. So we have price pretty much giving us sideways movement now. But again, we're looking for continued strength out of this pair. So the overall target point still remains at 99.94. So that's still the overall area that we'll be looking at for the dollar Swiss. Right? So all you want to be looking at now is watch this area. Let's identify that zone, 99.10. So you want to be watching price action as it gets around that level, and maybe a retest back down into these lows, maybe on the cards, but not too far. Possibly just to check back this zone right here, and then from there, continuation to the upside. So ideally, those are the two conditions that would be looking at. So the target point still remains the same. However, we might get a bit more consolidation out of the market before pushing to the upside. New Zealand dollar, the Kiwi dollar. We were looking for the market to do what? Retrace back down into this level, and from the retracement into this area, it was simple support and resistance play. Market push up into resistance, trade it back down into support, and then we would have just simply tried to look for a trade back up in resistance. Now we're in resistance again, simple play back down to support. So like I said, guys, trading isn't rocket science. There's nothing new in trading. It's everything that I'm going through has already been taught. It's already out there. So it's just to find the persons with the proper knowledge to share that overall, to share their overall experience with you, right? So you buy in support and you're looking to sell in resistance. If we look on the daily time frame here, we can easily see that the market has found resistance around 64.45. We have been trending up, and the market has been giving us a smooth uptrend, right? We have a deaccelerated trend line here, and we potentially have another trend line. We have another trend falling in place right in this area. Still not confirmed as yet, so we just have to watch price action as it approaches this area. So again, the next target point for this pair would be, let me just pull back down to the 4 hour just to give you a direct figure, an actual figure to work with. And it would be right back in the neckline, pretty much where we are now. Get price here, look for another swing to the upside, right? If we are getting consistent strength out of the dollar, then we could see the market look to test this level here. Right, we could see the market look to test this overall level. But for now, all we're simply looking at is for price. If price pushes up into this area, then you can look for your buy signal, for your sell signal, I should say, sorry, and then target this zone here. Right, so that's what you should be looking at for Kiwi dollar. Right, so the market looks pretty good. We didn't get a lot of movement to finish off last week in terms of Thursday and Friday's price action. The market was pretty slow on Monday, so we didn't get that much movement there. But throughout yesterday and leading into today, we saw where the market kind of pick up some steam, pick up the volume and the liquidity, and we started to get some movement coming in. So what we should be seeing is price respecting these highs and then just simply pushing back to the downside. Again, this pair last week, we were saying what? I am expecting to see the market do what? Simply stuck right in this overall range, looking for pure sideways price action out of the market. And that's why I didn't call any level on this. I simply said to you, if you get the price beneath this area, beneath the box, beneath this lower line here, look to target here. Get it above, we just simply try to target that area. And we're highlighting this level here as the one to watch, right? And that's what? 68.25. We're highlighting that level. And why did I look at that overall level to say all we're expecting is sideways price action? Is the market is in this overall zone out of the market as pretty is very strong in relation to supply and demand. When we are below that area, we have it acting as a strong resistance zone to the price getting higher. Once we get above that level, we find the market holding up around that area as well, coming down. Still the same, going back higher. Above, providing strong support to the market coming down. So what we're simply looking to see again now, and let me just take a look at this. This is very interesting now. And now we can see continued movement out of the market. This entire candlestick pattern here, it's a key indication that the market itself wants to go bearish, wants to be bearish, right? So that's the overall thing that I'll be looking at, and that's what continued strength to the downside. Let me just see if I can highlight a level for you. Let me just check something real quick. All right, so we should be expecting bearish price movement out of this overall trade, and this would become our target point. So this level here would be our target area, simply for the market to push lower. The Australian dollar should be picking up strength as well. Economy is pretty good, so we should be expecting strength coming out of the Australian dollar. So this would be your first target point. Ideally, we'd want to see price tagging back these lows, but this level here would be your first target point. That would give you probably about 30-40 pips down. Yeah, 46 pip. Yeah, so that's not a bad target area for you to be looking at, especially out of the Australian dollar. And this is one of the slowest pairs out there in the market. It really takes time to move. It really takes time for the market to move, right? But that's the overall level that we would be looking at out of the market in relation to Australian dollar. Gold. Last week, I gave you guys some pretty good levels to work with out of the market. I was simply saying to you, based on where we were, I think at the time of the session, gold was around $14.60. Let me see if I can identify that, the 13th, 7th. Yeah, we were around this area. And I was saying that the levels that you want to be watching is 1470 and 1456, and look for the market to simply finish off. And if I pull this down to the 1 hour, just so you guys can have that, we did in fact get the price spot on, right? So we got the movements out of the market that we're looking for. We said we wanted to see the price push up into this overall area. From there, we were expecting what? Bearish movement out of that market. And then from that bearish movement, what would we be looking for? Another push to the upside to simply finish off this overall play. So we look at the market pushing into 1470 as suggested, and from that move to come back down into 1456, and then we look to finish off this play overall at the 1480. Now, what you want to be doing now is simply assessing price action as it gets around the 1480 zone, because from there we should be expecting gold to make an attempt to finish off its overall move to the downside, right? And the level that you want to be looking at for gold is simply to tag back its monthly EMAs, right? And in this case, we can see price heavily overextended here. I'll just clear up these levels for you. Price is heavily overextended. So the overall area that we'll be looking at for gold, not to come all the way back down to 1360, definitely not. But you want to be looking at about 1445 there, about 1430. That's the overall zone that you want to be looking for gold, right? It will take time to get down there. What we can possibly expect is a bit more sideways price action coming out of the market, but it should give proper trading opportunities. 1430 is the overall target for gold, back to the downside to simply finish off that play. Based on the weekly time frame, getting the price back into 1480 would be ideal to finish off this move again to the downside. And we said that what are the things that we look for out of the market? Impulse, correction, impulse. Look for the market to simply go back in and tag the neckline, right? Pretty simple stuff in terms of technical analysis, right? That's textbook technical analysis there. Impulse, correction, impulse. Look for the correction to the overall neckline out of the market. That's something that you guys can always remember and utilize it. And you can see a pretty clear example and scenario of that overall play based on the movement that was cited throughout the entire week, and that take a full week in order to do that. So that one went pretty well for us, right? I know that the guys in the mentorship program were able to capitalize greatly off those gold trades as well. So what we're looking out for gold now is your first target point would be back down in these lows, right? Right back where we are now. So your first target point is actually to aim back to the 1450 region. And from there, we're looking for the market to give some indication to continue to the downside, right? So your first target point for gold is 1450. That's the first level that we're looking for. Right, just to simply talk about this overall low here. If the market continues to push to the upside, which is highly unlikely based on the strength that we're expecting out of the dollar, but if we should get a close above 1480, look no further than this zone here, 1487, 1490, right? So that's the overall zone if we get a close above this area, which is 1480, right? So that's what we would be looking at. So your key area now to be looking for the market is 1480, and then we try to get any sell signal to send the market down to 1450. All right, so that's the last pair now in regards to the majors. I remember last week someone asked me to look on 3 pairs for them. One was New Zealand CAD, the other was Euro, Swiss, and I think Pound Yen. Right, so the first thing I was looking at now in terms of New Zealand CAD, based on where we were, the first target point I gave was for the market to come back down into this area. That's 84.26, right? The market did that superbly. For the guys in the group, in the mentorship program, we were looking at New Zealand CAD and for the market to simply push back to the upside. At this stage, we were simply saying that the market has given us instances where it could come back to the downside. However, I simply stated to them, based on what I'm seeing coming out of the market now, I would still be looking for continued strength to the upside. Right? So that's pretty much what we did there. And would still be looking for possibly movements to the upside out of this, no further than 85.75, and then we simply try to look for a sell signal to take back the market down into where we were last week, right? And that area would be back there. All right, so I don't remember exactly who had asked me to have a look at that, but if you're on this session again, this is a very good trade that you should have got picked up last week. And based on where the market is, you can just look back for that same overall area. The next one that we're looking at is Euro Swiss. Now remember stating that there's a gap on the weekly time frame for euro, and generally when we identify these things in the market, price tends to try and find its way to fill the price action in this overall zone, right? So this is the gap that we're looking at. So we don't know when the market will head here, but based on where we are now and given the fact that we're so close to this overall area, we're expecting the price to push down and finish that off. Based on what we saw out of the Swiss today, right, I was saying, look for the market to approach in this overall area, but identify your resistance point and then you try to find your sell signals to come lower. I might be holding off on that overall sell coming out of the market now, simply because of what we're seeing based on the Swiss franc, right, and the overall strength of that currency. We would ideally need to see further weakness out of the euro dollar, or strength coming back into the Swiss franc in order for us to get this market down here, right? Overall, I'm not really seeing too much strength for the euro for the remainder of this week and even heading into next week, because I think based on what I've done in terms of analysis, the euro pound looks down, euro USD looks down, euro Aussie looks bearish again, and if I'm not mistaken, euro NZD also looks bearish, right? So overall, you're looking at weakness coming out of the euro dollar. So what would I be expecting out of this? Not much, because you're looking at two weak currencies. So I wouldn't even call any level on this. I'll just simply leave this pair out of my overall analysis. I wouldn't really be looking at anything at all out of the market for euro Swiss. Right, the next pair that we were looking at was this overall move here, and again we took a trade on this again with the group today. I can already look based on where we are now. I can tell that we are already in profit. I don't remember the levels that I highlighted last week, but let's see where we were. Last week was the 13th. Let's see, at 7 o'clock. 13th at 7. Let's see if I can find that at 7 here. All right, because I remember we took a trade on this again last week. Didn't get much movement out of that. Came down about 70 pips. I'm still holding on to pound yen to hit the 138 zone. So the fact that we're here now, we're still looking for bearish movement out of the pound. yen, and we're trying to target the 138 zone. So if we can get there throughout the course of the week, that would be great for my team and great for myself also. But otherwise from that, we're simply stuck in an overall range in the market, and this is pretty evident across most of the pound pairs, right? Most of them, we find ourselves in that range, sideways price movement in market simply consolidating in the highs, right? They're pretty much waiting to tag back the 20 moving average, right? And that's how we're simply looking at now, for the price to simply give us some sideways movement, or if we can get strong or continued weakness out of the pound, I should say, we should expect the price to hit down into 138 thereabout. That would be very, very great for myself and the team. All right, so that would pretty much wrap up today's live market scan. What I'll do is, as always, I'll just do a quick recap just to highlight the overall levels that we'll be looking at. And again, we're saying that we're targeting what? 1040 0940 for euro dollar. That's the level that we're looking at. So bearish movements out of the euro USD. Pound USD, bearish movements again. But we're saying that we want to look at price action as it approach the 2850 zone. That's a level that we want to be looking at, right? And continued bearish movements back down to about 2650 thereabout. Ideally, that would be a very good trade if we can get the price to get down there. USD CAD, pretty much same movement, a bit of sideways price action. If we can get the price back down into 32.85 thereabout, and then looking to target the highs of about 35. We might take some time for us to get up into those levels, but that's the overall target point that you should be looking at. Once we get above 33.47, there ain't nothing much holding you back from approaching that overall target until you reach about 34.27, right? And that's pretty much close to 100 pips away, right? So that's the overall target points. Yeah, so that's what, 80 pips up. If we should get the price to come back into this low and you take a trade from there, you're looking at a little over 100 pips going to the upside for that pair. USD JPY, pretty much sideways market we've been getting all week. If we get continued strength out of the dollar and the yen, we may have continuation or pretty much sideways price action coming in again. However, ideally, we would still be looking at the 109.81 level to be tagged out of euro, USD, yen. Swiss, dollar Swiss, same thing. Bit of movement back down into support and then continuation to the upside, signaling dollar strength. And 99.93 is your target point. NZD, USD, simply targeting 63.71. Aussie USD, like I said, we're in an overall era now where price has stuck in the range for the past week, but overall we're still looking for continuation to the downside, targeting first era 67.51. And for gold, we're simply looking for the market to head back to the downside into the 1450 region, and the level that we'll be looking at for price action is the 1480 zone. All right, so that would conclude the live market scan for this week. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If there's any pair that you have in mind that you would want me to take a quick look at for you, you can simply send a message in the chat and I'll have a quick look at that for you, right? Okay, so we have Aussie JPY. This was a good trade as well for us in terms of price action. We took a nice trade on this with the team. When was it? Yesterday or the day before? Ramon, I think if you're still on the session, let me know exactly when we took this trade. If it was yesterday or the day before, but we know that we collected some good profits out of this. I think we sold it on from about 74.20 or thereabout. Collected a nice 30-40 pips out of the trade. But to give a overall analysis on this, market is still to the downside. Okay, yesterday, all right. All right, so to give an overall analysis of this trade, of this pair, highlighting a few key levels for you here. We're approaching support. So what you want to be looking at now, ideally, is for a reversal out of support here. We know that we're expecting some strength coming out of the yen. So again, if we get the market, so the first right off the bat, I can tell you from the daily before going down to the 4-hour, is that you want to be looking at 73.38. That's the overall level that you want to be looking at, and assess price action as it gets around that area. If you can get the market to close beneath that level, then you can possibly target the 72.43 level, right? Otherwise, you may just want to take a swing back to the upside and target 74.44 thereabout. So that's pretty much what we're looking at out of Aussie yen, right? So based on where we are now, we should be seeing price heading back to the downside. That's for sure, right? We should be getting movements back to the downside out of that overall pair, right? What you want to be looking at again is simply, like I said, and based on where we are, this is the overall area. If you get so this becomes the area for you to watch now. So it's very clear from the daily time frame. This is just simply confirming things now for us. Looking for the market to head back into this overall area, build up some form of consolidation in this zone, possibly getting the market to swing back to the highs and then another swing to the downside, right? So this is what you want to be looking at. Based on what the price does here, a close beneath this level, assess the market to come lower, right? So let's highlight that. Close below and bearish movement. All right, so I just simply documenting this so that we can have a look at it again next week, all right, to see where we are. So I'll close beneath this level and we're looking for bearish movements. If we get the rejection, we're simply looking for the price to go to the upside, right? So that's pretty much all I can say for pound, Aussie yen. The next one we're looking at is we have two persons asking to look at pound Aussie. So let's have a quick look at that. This is a pair that I haven't traded for a while. Because I haven't traded this for a while, I'll just do a quick analysis on this. All right, so the market seems to be in a smooth uptrend here. The level that you want to be looking at This is on the weekly time frame. Target back these lows. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Look to see if you can get the price. A fail close above this level would signal for continuation to the downside. Right, so you may want to be watching that level first, signaling to the downside. So let's just assess this real quick. The first target point would be right in this zone here, 88. That's the overall level that you want to be looking at. That's your very first target point that you want to be looking at. But look for price to hit back this level first, without a doubt. You should get price to head back into this area. So if you're taking a trade, do not open that position too early. Wait for the market to hit these highs. So assess the market as it gets right in this little box here. Right, so this overall zone, it's 90.54 and 90.90. Look for the price action as it approaches that overall area. Right, if you're not on screen and you miss that overall move, then look for this area. Look for this price point. Right, so if the market pushes above, if it fails below this area, still look for the retest into this overall structure right here. Right, so 90.15 is the level that you want to be looking at, regardless of what the market does. Right, so if you get the price to push up into this area, then you can look to take the trade short back down into 188, right, that overall area. Right, so you can look for the price to head back there. First TP point would be right in this low, right, and that in itself would still be a very good trade. That's at least 100 pip, right, so that's not a bad, that wouldn't be a bad trade. But the overall movement out of pound Aussie is bearish, but wait for the market to approach this overall resistance area, right? Daily highs, look for that level to be tagged, and then from there you assess the market based on the price action to execute your position short. Right, so that's what you should be looking at out of the market. Anything else that you guys have that you would want me to look at? Because otherwise would just pretty much call it a night right where we are. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the discussion group. And thank you guys again for tuning in. Once the video is not edited but properly downloaded, I'll simply upload it to YouTube and then share the link with the entire team so you can have it to take a look at again in the future. All right, if you want to improve on your technical analysis skills, we are here to help you as well. You can look out for the new mentorship session when we post that, because we are already 2 weeks in this overall session that we have going on. You can register for it from now, and however, you would possibly require to do a lot of reading on your own, and we'll send you videos that you can access in the meantime, and you can take advantage of the live trading sessions that we do every single morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then we take a break and then we hit back the screens at 9 and finish off the trading day at around 11:30 a.m. Right, and these are my trading hours. So when I'm on these sessions in the morning, I'm pretty much looking for trades that I am taking personally, and I share with my students during the mornings as well my trading strategy, things that I look for in the market, right? And signs that we utilize to improve our overall entry, minimize drawdowns, maximize profits. So what I want you to take away from these sessions that we do on a weekly basis is when you're assessing the market, you'll identify the areas. I show you the areas that you want to be looking at, right? All you want to be doing from there is to simply utilize your own trading strategy if you have one. If you don't, we can help you to create a strategy that suits you, right? And you want to utilize that strategy, you must have a rule for entering the market, and you utilize the areas that I give you. Set up your based on your entry requirements, and you take your trade, right? So it's that's all that's required of you, right? So we try to make the process as easy as possible for each and every person, right? The payments are pretty much as straightforward as well. I doubt that you'll find anybody else out there that provides you the service that we do here at the price that we offer it as well. All right. So again, thank you guys for your time, and we look forward to this session again next week.